Welcome back to Hello Podcast. Here we discuss present issues and dilemmas faced by the younger generations.
Our rules there are simple. No sugarcoating, no exaggeration, just honest conversation in critical thinking.
Exactly, and as we always say, real minds think alike.
Honest question for you, Rahma. Have you ever posted on social media and then received very few likes? If yes, what was the first thought that crossed your mind? Did you assume that people were just busy, or did you immediately think that you weren't good enough?
Of course, David. I think this is a very common experience for many people who use social media. The first time it happened to me, I immediately felt like I wasn't good enough. I started to posting more and even tried to improve quality of my post. But the results stayed the same. Very few likes. That made me feel even worse. I began thinking that people simply weren't interested in my content at all. Thankfully, I've since healed from that mindset and try not to tie my self-worth to online feedback.
Wow, thank you for sharing that, Rahma. I think your experience is extremely relatable, and there are probably many viewers watching this that feel the same way, which is why we will discuss about teen social media, identity, and ethics.
I'm excited to discuss more about it, David. So let's not take any longer time. Please welcome our guest. Welcome Aisha, Amanda, Bella, and Sherina. It's an honor to meet all of you. To keep things brief, let me introduce our guests. They will be sharing philosophical and mental health perspectives on social media, with a focus on teenagers.
So basically, our discussion will follow five main points: feedback and teenagers' emotions, perfect online image and purpose, virtue ethics and character, social morality and responsibility, as well as influencer trends and herd mentality. So let's begin with our first point: feedback and teenagers' emotions. Bella, can you help explain to us a little bit how feedback from social media affects teenagers' emotions, and why experiences like what Rahma shared in the beginning occur very often, especially for teenagers?
Thank you, David, for this question. I've prepared a simple explanation for this. To teenagers, the purpose of posting has been distorted. It is no longer for expression, but for their engagement. Because for teenagers, they are still in the process of shaping their self-identity and learning to control their emotions. Positive feedbacks activate their brain reward system, releasing a lot of dopamine. They can very easily get addicted to it, which may result in compulsive posting. But we can't just simply blame it on teenagers entirely. All of this happened because of social media, which allows feedback to be public and quantifiable. Often, teens may view feedback as their personal judgments, which invokes their emotions of anxiety, mood swings, and also emotional distress. This then tricks them into comparing themselves to their peers and influencers, which reduce their self-esteem. This explains why, in Rahma's sharing, she thought worse things after she posted the second time. And for other teenagers, they may feel worse every time they post more, because their self-esteem continuously decreases as they compare themselves more and more to unrealistic standards.
I agree with you very much, Bella. It makes sense. The reason why I felt worse after I posted the second time was because after I posted the first time, I also compared myself to my friends and other influencers, which lowered my self-esteem.
Bella's explanation helped us understand how feedback from social media affects teenagers' emotions. We've discussed the how, so let's discuss the why. To my own understanding, The reason why teenagers always seek to look perfect online is because they haven't found their true life purpose. They waste too much time in trying to maintain their fake perfect online image, which causes them to compare themselves even more to their peers and other influencers, lowering their self esteem. And continuing this doom cycle of comparison, false anxiety, and low self esteem will hinder them even more in discovering their life purpose. What do you think about this, Amanda?
I agree with you, Devi. But again, I also agree with Bella's explanation before that this is not entirely the teenagers' fault, but social media push them to show their most idealized version of themselves, fake perfection. This includes beauty, happiness, and success. As a result, teenagers spend too much time to maintain their perfect online image rather than understanding themselves better and finding their life purpose. This relates to the philosophical theory of existentialism, where humans were born with zero purpose, but they have all of the freedom to define themselves and find their life purpose through their choices. This means everyone has a big responsibility for themselves. The perfect online image issue can be explained by Jean-Paul Sartre's theory, existentialism of bad faith, where people deceive themselves by denying their freedom and responsibility. They pretend that they have fixed roles instead of being free. They choose to escape their fear that comes with decision making and let their external expectations define who they are and who they need to be.
Wow, that's very insightful from you. Thank you for brilliant explanation. Speaking of which, in the process of discovering their life purpose, teenagers also go through character development. And of course, social media has a big impact on this process. What I could personally think is of that social media acts as a double-edged sword. This is because the good characters on teenagers depends on their social media algorithm. The good side of social media might teach them about kindness, compassion, and wisdom. However, the bad side of social media might teach them to normalize ego, arrogance, and ignorance. What do you think of this, Sherina? Can you help us more explain about it?
Your explanation is on point, Rahma. However, if I may add, their character development is not merely just affected by what they see on social media, but also affected with what they are encouraged to do in there. But again, on the unrealistic, perfect online life, it itself already teaches them how to do a performative behavior, comparing to others, and also normalizing dishonesty because they are wanting to show like they already have a perfect life. As we are discussing about this, I would like also to bring up about the philosophy of virtue ethics. So virtue ethics is a moral philosophy where it focuses on character development by regularly practicing of virtues such as kindness, honesty, and also empathy. It also explains that virtue ethics doesn't come naturally to humans, but it has to be repetitively learned by using moral deeds. So yes, as Rahma explained, teenagers' moral development is highly impacted by what they see on social media, and also it depends on their algorithms. But by learning virtue ethics, we know now that good moral development still can be achieved if ones use their surroundings wisely. Basically, if the teenagers can still filter what they learn from and also think critically, they can still achieve a good moral development.
I understand now. Thank you very much, Sherina. So, social media in itself is more damaging than benefiting for teenagers if they don't learn how to filter properly. I think it shows us even more how important it is to be able to think critically. not only for adults, but even more for teenagers, as it helps us filter which content we want to learn from, which content we just want to be entertained from, and which contents we should completely ignore. So far, we talked about how social media affects teenagers emotionally and even shapes their identity. But now, the bigger question is, when social media contributes to these mental health issues, who is actually responsible? Aisha, can you give us your thoughts on this?
Sure, David. Since we talk about responsibility, let's start from a social morality perspective. So, what is social morality perspective? It's basically how society see what is acceptable and also who is responsible for the people well-being, especially for teenagers. Since social media have features like likes, comment, and shares, these all features is gonna be really addictive to the users. And it's become a widespread issue. So, social morality wants society to not just blame the teenagers, to be too overly sensitive. Another point I want to add is, social media is designed to engage the user to be more scrolling and then comparing and also seeking validation from another user. So they're not just telling to teenager to using less social media, but they want to change the environment of the social media itself. It's also linked to morality. So from the deontological view, platform should not be harmful to its user. So if there's some harmful stuff that's foreseeable, they need to make a safeguards for its users. If the company only make this and that addictive for their own profit, especially for they only to take the interest of teenagers, their main point is just teenagers to be addictive to their platforms, it's gonna be ethically questionable.
Honestly, I agree with that. Sometimes it doesn't feel like a choice. The platform makes it feel like likes are a measure of your value, and that can mess with your mindset.
Exactly. So for example, the safeguard can be hiding accounts from the teen's account, have a stronger breaks reminder, and lastly, they can less to recommendation, give a aggressive recommendation, and also social morality say that well-being is more matter than social engagement numbers.
So it's clear, it's a shared responsibility and not just teenagers need to toughen up. Alright, let's move on to our final point. This is where peer pressure becomes even more intense. Okay, everyone, now we're at our fifth and final point, influencer trends and herd mentality. In this part, we will let any of us to answer. Does anyone want to help us explain why influencer trends spread so fast and what pressure teenagers face to follow them?
Allow me to answer this, David. I'm going to explain two big reasons. First is algorithm amplification. Social medias like TikTok and Instagram have highly engaging contents. When something is trending, algorithm keeps showing it again and again. This makes teens feels like everyone is doing it, even though it's not true, right? And the second one is social proof. Teens see views, likes, and follower counts and assume that if something is popular, they must be valid and they must follow it to fit in the society. That's where herd mentality comes in. Following the majority without really thinking.
Yeah, and even if you don't like the trend, it feels like you still need to know about it or you will be left out.
Allow me to add, teenagers are in a stage of identity formation, so peer acceptance matters a lot. They may follow trends to avoid exclusion. Another big pressure is fear of messing up, which creates urgency and can make them feel stressed and increase their anxiety. And the emotional consequences can get serious. Constant comparison to influencers' ideal life can lower self-esteem and increase their anxiety. It can even lead to body dissatisfaction or depressive symptoms. It highlights the loss of authentic identity because teens start imitating instead of self-reflecting.
That's honestly scary because it sounds like the trend is not just entertainment anymore, it becomes pressure.
Yes, David. I want to talk about herd mentality in practical way. So herd mentality not only just copying, but it's when teenagers need to follow the crowd so they don't feel left out. It's because the algorithm is repeating itself and it makes a illusion that everyone agree with it and also everyone doing it. Teenager may not ask, do I actually like this? But they will ask, if I didn't do this trend, will I be excluded? This kind of mentality will be influenced more easily. Not only just by trends, but also by influencer who promotes certain lifestyle and then promotes their products. And lastly, the unrealistic standards of the influencer.
And from virtue ethics, herd mentality is about habit and character. If teenagers keep chasing for approval, it will be normal for them to chase attention instead of value. So it can also weaken honesty because teenagers will feel pressured to become perfect like an influencer. And based on virtue ethics, it teaches us that a healthier habit is to pause and choose based on your own values and not what is popular.
Thank you, everyone. So, from what we're seeing, influencer trends spread fast because of algorithms and social proof, and teenagers follow them because of identity pressure and FOMO, which can lead to serious emotional consequences and even shape their whole character.
Honest question for everyone watching. Have you ever joined a trend just because you felt pressure, not because you genuinely liked it? You guys can share your experiences in the comments.
Alright, everyone. So that brings us to the end of our 5 main points. So before we end, let's connect everything in a quick and clear way.
First, we discussed how likes and feedback can affect teenagers' emotional because it starts to feel like a judgment of self-worth. Second, we explained how the desire for a perfect online life can distract teenagers to find a real purpose. Third, from filter ethics, we said repeated online habits shape character, like honesty, kindness, and understanding.
Fourth, from social morality and responsibility, we learned that it is not only a teenager problem because social media platforms and society shape the environment too. And finally, influencer trends and herd mentality show how pressure and popularity can push teenagers to follow without thinking. So, the main takeaway is social media is not only affecting what teenagers do, but it also shapes what they value, how they think of themselves, and even who they become.
Before we end, one quick takeaway from each guest.
Authenticity matters. Don't let approval define your purpose or identity.
Habit shapes character. Build healthier habits online, not just a better image.
Responsibility is shared. If harm is predictable, we cannot blame teenagers alone.
Popularity is not a proof. Slow down and reflect before you following the trend just to fit in.
Last question for everyone watching. What is one habit that you want to change after watching this podcast? You can share it in the comment section.
Thank you for all the curious minds for watching this podcast. We hope this gave you something to think about. See you next time, and as we always say, real minds think alike.